My wife, who has been struggling with alcoholism and erratic behavior for 7 years, just admitted to cheating throughout our entire dating relationship. This story spans over 15 years. I met my wife when we were both 19 out at a club. We were both into partying and did a lot of it. Back then, I was in a friends with benefits arrangement with another girl, and I kept that going for the first few months of dating my wife. For the next couple of years, until I was 21, we had massive fights and would break up. Or at least it felt like it. And during those times, I cheated on her again with the same woman. It was a terrible thing to do, and I always felt guilty about it. Eventually, I decided to end the FWB situation for good and give my relationship with my wife a real chance, even though I thought we might eventually break up. But that never happened. Our relationship grew stronger, we both finished university, I started a business, and she got a job. Things were going well, and I even took her to Hawaii to propose. A few months before the wedding, I started having serious doubts about getting married, mainly because of the guilt I felt about my past infidelities. Everyone, including myself, saw her as this sweet and innocent girl, which made cheating on her feel even worse. After a few tumultuous weeks, she said she still wanted to get married and that we could work through it. So, we did. The next 7 years of marriage were incredibly difficult, and I don't mean just the typical marriage is hard kind of difficult. I mean things were seriously messed up. She fell into a deep depression and blamed it all on me. I was made to feel like absolute garbage nearly every day. All the love, romance, and connection between us completely died. Her drinking kept escalating, and I've been punched in the face more times than I can count. I was held bounced from work and hospital due to poor mental health, and it's left me with my head can. I've been bitten so badly that I needed medical treatment, stabbed in the head with a wine glass, and tortured with sleep deprivation. Sometimes we went months without sex, and when COVID started, she basically moved into the guest room for an entire year. A few months back, she tried to kill herself with medications and alcohol. I spent the entire Easter weekend avoiding my family while sitting with her in the hospital as she detoxed for a week, followed by 3 weeks in rehab. Since she's been out, she was supposed to continue her therapy sessions, but she hasn't gone even once and has started drinking every day again. Most of her yelling and screaming is directed at me, blaming me for hurting her so much and expressing how much she hates me. During the 7 years we've been married, she's had about 15 jobs, despite having multiple degrees. But none of them lasted more than a few months, mostly because of her drinking. So I've paid every single bill and expense for practically the entire time I've known her. I even give money to her poor family overseas. I'm always there for her and her family in every way, while she doesn't do anything like that for me. I recently bought us a really nice first house, which I had to pay for entirely on my own, and now the time is approaching for us to start a family. The fear of the new house and kids sent her into a drunken rage, where she got furious at me for not wanting to talk about what I did with my FWB. The main reason I avoid it is because, after 7 years of being tortured over it, I hate talking about it and shut down immediately, especially if she's been drinking. I blamed myself for all of this. Afterward, I realized that by not being open and talking about it, she felt like I was lying to her. So we sat down and had a calm conversation where I just explained what happened. There wasn't anything new that I hadn't told her before. I was just more comfortable discussing it this time. We've had hundreds of drunken nights over the years, having deep conversations about our history and life. Many times we asked each other, "Is there anything else? Is there anything else I should know?" She always said no, but I never really believed that. I had accepted that she had done something and that I would never know what it was. So I just let life go on. But the next day, or maybe later that night, she let it slip that she had slept with another guy I didn't know about. When I pressed her on who it was, she told me it was her old boyfriend from another state, and it happened about a year before we got married. Instantly, I was reminded of a time when we were dating, and she had left her phone with me when she went home. She sent me a message saying something like, "Hey, I left my phone, can you hold it for me? I love you, good night." A few minutes later, an email notification popped up on her phone for a hotel booking confirmation. She was supposed to be at work. I went a bit crazy thinking about what was going on, so the next morning I drove to the hotel near the airport over an hour away to see what was happening. I saw her car there, managed to call her room, and found her number. I stormed in there like a madman, trying to catch her in the act. There was screaming, security got involved, it was chaos. But she was alone, and I was forced to leave. She made me feel like a crazy psycho, claiming she just wanted some space from work and that this was the cheapest hotel she could find. I'm such an idiot. So, as it turns out, I was just a few hours early, and this was actually the third time they had met up. She tried to explain that I couldn't understand because what they had was real love and affection and desire. She said they just wanted each other so much and she didn't feel that with me. The days following her confession have left me in a state of shock. I couldn't believe it, but at the same time, I wasn't entirely surprised that she had cheated. What really cut deep was finding out that she was so in love with this guy, while I was doing all the work of being a boyfriend, getting none of the real love or affection in return. Honestly, what a piece of trash. He had to screw up our relationship despite having the whole world of dating apps at his disposal. He's getting married in a few weeks, and I'm seriously tempted to mess up his life the way he's ruined mine. Anyway, I didn't get angry with her about it. I had cheated, so it only seemed fair, right? I just needed time to process everything. That was the beginning of what I now know as the trickle truth. Over the last few days, it turns out she was cheating most of the time we were dating and engaged. I understand that I didn't own her. We weren't married, and if she wanted to sleep around, fine, but it should have been equal. I just feel used. My friends always thought I was crazy for letting her go out clubbing without me, but I trusted her friend, who I also considered my friend. But apparently, girls' night out meant going out to get drunk and hook up with whoever they could. So I'll probably never really know the full extent of it, but so far, this is what I've learned. She slept with 2 different exes during our first year of dating. She was having a lesbian relationship with one of her friends pretty much the entire time we were dating, and she even invited this friend to our wedding. These two would go out clubbing together and not invite me, so they could spend the whole night making out, being together, and then going home to have sex. She had another sexual experience with one of her other female friends. She slept with this old boyfriend 3 times, but she let it slip that he wasn't flying here just for her because he has family here. So who knows how many times they actually hooked up. She had unprotected sex with 2 different random guys in nightclub bathrooms within 6 months of us getting married. And basically, she made out with possibly hundreds of people whenever she went out without me. This is all she's told me so far, and I have no idea how I'm supposed to deal with all of this. This woman has used me, abused me, manipulated me, and physically and emotionally assaulted me. I put up with all of it because I felt like I had done such a terrible thing to her and she would never let it go. For 7 years, I have been constantly attacked for how my actions hurt her. She didn't even try to forgive me and move forward or make our marriage anything other than pain and misery. I can't understand how she could do this to me. I get it. I was a fool too. People do stupid things, and it sounds like she had a real blast, so I really doubt she regrets any of it. But here's where I'm really struggling. I was never wrong. Every single time I was suspicious and things didn't make sense was a time when something was going on behind my back. As you've heard, our marriage, especially in the beginning, was unbelievably bad. The hate she had for me, the lies. One time, I found her booking secret hotels again because she had lost her job and needed somewhere to go. She had been fired and didn't tell me, and then used what little money she had on a hotel room for herself while we were really struggling financially and desperately needed a second income. Every single time, she would let me down. So, I've had a lot of suspicions during our marriage, and I'm finding it extremely hard to believe that someone who has lied and manipulated me nearly every day I've known her would suddenly stop just because we got married. She got away with it all. Now she's depressed and ashamed. She says she didn't know what real love was, but now she finally feels it with me. She claims she loves me so much and that I'm her entire world now. She says she struggled with her sexuality, being bisexual, and that she had to hide it. This is a bullshit excuse to me. I've always known she was bi and never held it against her. I would have been very open to exploring that with her, but she keeps using her sexuality as an excuse for what she's done to me, while always reminding me that she would never be open to sharing me with someone else. A few months ago, she was telling me she wanted to go outside of our marriage to explore having sex with a woman, but wasn't okay with me doing the same, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, that's been my last 7 days and I'm not processing it well. If I'm not drinking, I just start breaking down. I have given this woman everything, and all she ever did was take and use everything against me. The only thing I know is that I don't really know anything, and I probably never will. I don't trust a word out of her mouth. In the past, she's used these kinds of stories to break me down for a few months, only to recant or tell me she made it up, which now I have to question as maybe none of it was made up after all. I've worked from home for years, and since she's an unemployed bum, she's around basically 24 hours a day every day, so I don't think anything has been going on for some time. But it feels like it's just too late, and it will definitely happen again. It was just so much, not just a few times, but an insane number of times. I mean, I'm sure it could get worse, and I'm also sure it probably will. How could I possibly have a family with this? Obviously, there's so much I don't know, not that it really matters, I suppose. My two biggest issues are how I've been treated during this marriage. If what she says now is true, I should never have been treated the way I was all this time. The betrayal from someone I've sacrificed everything for. The last thing that happened was over 7 years ago, but it's not like those 7 years have been great. I was already ready to leave at the rehab stage because things had gotten so bad. Sorry for how long this was. If anyone got through it all, thank you for being there. This has been one of the hardest weeks of my life, and to be perfectly honest, I'm not holding up well at all. How do I survive this? I never feel like I'll be the same person again. Now on to the next story. My daughter's drunken confession shattered my world. My disabled wife has been unfaithful. I'm not sure if this is the right place to talk about this, but things are getting so desperate. My wife and I have been together for 25 years, since we met in high school. We've been married 19 of those years. We were high school sweethearts and have 2 great children, a son and a daughter. I thought our marriage was strong and different from those of friends and coworkers. Indeed, we would stand the test of time. How naive I was. My wife has been a homemaker for nearly all our marriage, something we both agreed upon. However, after the children went to college and this house grew still more silent, she began to feel as though empty nest syndrome was getting to her. She expressed how unfulfilled and lost in identity she felt. I tried to cheer her up and suggested we take up hobbies together, go out in new places, perhaps even adopting some puppies. At first, she readily agreed. Then suddenly, though soon she started to say that she wanted to be more and not just drift through life. I could understand this viewpoint and was willing to back her, with she not being a sit-or-still person ever. She confided in some friends, and one of them assisted her in obtaining an interview at a real estate firm where she had previously been employed. After giving birth to both children, I would see the mother just as often in the nursery as ever nursing, and always tired. I was both excited and happy for her when she was offered the job. At first, everything seemed to go well, but she changed a little within the first year. She started going out after work for drinks with her colleagues, came home and texted endlessly into the wee hours of night, and began wearing different clothes, which were more revealing than usual, though nothing you would classify as improper. In fact, she even started wearing a new kind of perfume. The reason I really began to get worried was that one day when I picked up her cell phone, I was not snooping and just happened to glance over, see a message from a male colleague. The message was one that a woman might send to a man whom she likes and had nothing to do with work at all. When I asked her, she seemed a little flustered, but assured me that they were just friends and she would talk to this person about the improper messages, not wanting to become a gaunt, suspicious husband. I chose to believe her and let it pass. Damn, how I wish that had not been my decision. As time went on, her conduct became ever more strange. She started talking about wanting to be spontaneous in life and even tried some weed. I teased that she sounded like an older version of our children, but turned serious when she came out with this bombshell one night after she was drunk. She said she thought that maybe I was putting out her light. This completely knocked the wind out of my sails, and I felt like I was letting her down in some way, thus making every possible effort to improve our relationship, including arranging for counseling sessions, but to no avail. From that time on, her bizarre actions ceased. She said she was sorry for the way things had gone down and that it was as if she had forgot who she was, but she just couldn't bear to lose what we'd had at home. She resigned from her job and we had marriage counseling. It was hard at first, but things improved dramatically. Our marriage was better than ever for 2 years. She was more attentive at home, took the initiative in sex more often, and settled me with affection. The only hitch was her relationship with our daughter started going down the tubes. I asked my wife about it, but she brushed it off as just being a phase or woman thing. Once more, I believed her. Interestingly enough, during this time, my relationship with our daughter got better. She rang me up more often, met me for coffee or lunch during the week, and even gave me presents like t-shirts and so. I always argued it wasn't necessary, but she insisted. I could see she wanted to say something, but was holding back. Tragedy somehow struck. One night, my wife was returning from grocery shopping when she was hit by a drunk driver. She lost the use of her legs and has been in a wheelchair ever since. Things became truly hard and even suggested I sleep with other women, but obviously refused. I put it down to her depression and reassured her that I wasn't going anywhere, because this made her cry, and she asked why I was so good to her or what she had ever done to deserve me. Once more, I thought it was simply her depression speaking and did my utmost to comfort her. The doctor saw an enlargement on my wife's throat during a regular checkup, and it was larger than normal. In case it was cancerous, they needed a biopsy done of this lump in the neck. I couldn't think straight, but my wife just sat there blankly upon hearing it, wordlessly at first and then laughing hysterically, saying this is my retribution for what I did. We finally calmed her down, but she asked that we go out to eat together as a family before the biopsy was done. So we did. I approved. We had our kids and our nearest cousins over. I talked about how my wife was my light in life and we would get through this yet together. However, I noticed that our daughter looked uncomfortable. It could have been because of the situation. Maybe not. Later that day, my daughter called me when she was plastered, begging that I shouldn't hate her. Initially, I was bewildered at the thought, but I reassured her that under no conditions would I ever hate you, because you are the apple of my eye and I will not disdain you ever. Then she told me that when her mother was away on business at the real estate company, her mother saved her own lover, whom I do not know the head person. This occurred during my wife's period as a real estate executive. My daughter decided to go on a driving trip with her friends, and so they stopped at a diner where they don't usually eat, but there she saw her mother kissing a man who is definitely not me. My relationship with my daughter apparently improved due to the decline in their relationship. My wife was in tears when she told me it was the coworker from the messages. She couldn't deny that either and admitted it was far and away the dumbest thing she'd ever done. She said he made multiple advancements on her and finally got through her resistance. She told me that coveting my daughter's virtue was when she recognized what a dreadful situation had developed. She wanted to take it to the grave, as she had never wanted to hurt me in her life. She was just too cowardly of a person to confess and therefore begged our daughter not tell me. I feel completely devastated by this news and don't know what to do. Every aspect of our relationship involves questioning today's date. 5 years ago. Where did I go wrong? My wife tells me I am a good husband, that none of this is my fault. The problem is, since finding out about it, my feeling towards her has changed markedly. I still look after her, but it's more like a nurse looking after a patient than a husband taking care of his wife. Actually, for someone to leave her, that would be alone. Even if I leave her, she's totally stuck. Financially, emotionally, she's dependent on me for everything, and this just seems so unfair.